Michelle Marie McGrath. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Unclassified Woman. Today I'm talking to Karin Rahbek, who is based in Denmark. Karin is the author of Do I Have to Be a Mother? A Childfree Woman's Struggle with Doubt and Loneliness. And Karin spent several years looking for precisely the book that she ended up writing herself. It's her hope that this book will help other child-free women understand and accept their feelings and be happy in who they are. The book describes in an honest, strong, and very personal way the thoughts and feelings associated with not having the desire to have children in a world where motherhood is seen as the most natural part of being a woman. It is Karin's hope that by reading about other women's doubts and talking openly about it, that women can be more honest with each other and she can help make the decision about motherhood less fraught with taboo. And yeah, such an emotive topic this, isn't it? Especially when you've got everybody around you who is doing the complete opposite and looking forward to motherhood or actively trying to become a mother. So I do hope you enjoy this conversation. So welcome, Karin. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you for letting me be on your show, Michelle.
I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective and more about the book that you've just written as well. So that's great. Always fascinating to hear all these insights from people in different countries and cultures. I love it.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it's great. So just to start us off with a bit of context, would you mind sharing a little bit about whether you've not had a child due to personal choice or whether it's been circumstantial?
Yeah, sure. I'm child-free by choice, and that's because the feeling that motherhood is not for me has been with me for as long as I remember. I don't really miss having children in my life, so I would never have given it any thought to my not having children if my friends and family had not had children themselves and had started asking me about my plans to have children. That's how I feel. And even though I've always wanted to live a child-free life, there was a period when I was still not well adapted to that life because I was always thinking of it. And since I felt so sure that I didn't want to have children, it took a while before I even realized that my thoughts and feelings were related to motherhood.
Yeah.
You know, like I had reached that classic point in my life. I was married. We had bought a house together and I had finished my education and my job was great. So the next natural step would be like everybody else, having a child.
Yes.
But, instead I got this very strong feeling of being different, almost like some kind of identity crisis. And it felt kind of surreal since I had just received or achieved all of my dreams. I just dreamt of having, a nice husband and have a nicer job, and it all came true. So that's why it felt like some kind of identity crisis. Where am I going to next? At this time, my cousin and his girlfriend, they decided to end their long-term relationship because he wanted to have children and she didn't. And at the same time, my sister-in-law, she gave in to her husband's desire to have a child. And my sister and my sister-in-law, they both got pregnant at the same time. And they were the last of my peers to get pregnant. Yeah. And I was happy on their behalf, but in my gut, it felt like a kind of rejection of our adults' friendship. And suddenly my cousin and his girlfriend, they got back together. And she got pregnant too.
Wow.
And I felt really bad or even worse, when my sister-in-law told me that she had chosen to get pregnant again because she decided that she would like to have one more child. It was not her husband that time who wanted a child more. It was her. And, then it's kind of human nature to look at what other women do.
Yeah.
And I just began to wonder, what do these other women know that I don't know? How come these two women, how come they changed their minds? How come they love their children? And the fact that my sister-in-law chose to have child number 2, I kind of saw that one child they started out with, like, it was kind of a compromise between a man that wanted children and a woman who didn't want children. So it kind of caught me completely by surprise that I obviously had to do some thinking about motherhood, even though I didn't know any parents who actually had a life I would want to swap for.
Yeah.
Therefore, I ended by sitting down and taking a look at these many facets of making such a different choice. And my book was just what came out of it.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging when people have got everybody around them who's really conforming to that script. And like you say, your sister-in-law who hadn't wanted a child initially, and then she changed her mind as a compromise. I think a lot of people again get to a point where if they're not seeing examples around them of people creating alternative lives of meaning, I think it can be very hard when you feel like you're under that much pressure to conform.
Yes, it definitely, it takes courage to choose a life without children.
Yeah.
Or just to live it, like if you are childless by circumstance.
Yeah.
It also, it takes courage to say, I'm not going to have any IVF.
Yeah.
It takes courage because everybody expects you to try.
Exactly.
Because it's everybody must want to have a child. And I actually, after I published the book in Denmark, I met a woman, and she told me that, when she met her husband, she told him that she didn't want to have kids. And he said, well, that's fine. And, they went on, they got their education, and, the same thing, they got a house, and they renovated the house, and they got jobs. And then he sat down and said, well, now you must want to have a child. And she said, no, I told you, I don't want to have a child. And, it's like, people, when you say you don't want a child, they hear you say, I don't want a child right now, but they expect you to change your mind. There was a guy writing to me that the exact same story, just the opposite. He didn't want children, and he told his girlfriend, and she accepted. And when they got the house and all this kind of stuff, this classic point, then she did the same. She said the same thing. You must have had the urge to have kids now. And he said, no, I don't. And then I just thought, why can't these two people meet? They need another person that doesn't want to have children either. And that made me start the network.
Yeah.
So there was a need for a place to date.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good business model, a dating agency for children, for people who know that they don't want to have children.
Actually, it was my husband. We saw a program with a guy starting the opposite, a dating network for people who really wanted children now. And my husband looked at me and said, you should do the opposite, and that just set it off. And, people are so happy about it. So it's really great.
I suppose the key is really meeting somebody who's got similar values and goals to you for your life. And something like that, it's such a major lifelong commitment that if it's not what you want, then I think it's really crazy to go along with what somebody else wants if that's not really the right thing for you.
Yeah, but some people just will go along because they don't really know what they want.
Yes.
And I think that's what is special about women without children. We know exactly what we want.
Yeah. And I mean, it's look, and obviously there's just so many variables to every situation, and can be very challenging, and also at different points in your life. I mean, obviously, you might have different sort of priorities in your 20s or 30s or 40s. And it's just one of these things that I think as well, it's important that you can feel one way at a time, and then it's okay to change your mind if that's the right thing for you, but only you know if that's right or not. I mean, nobody can decide that for you.
I know you know, that's also my experience from the network that I started out, because even though you find somebody who has the same feeling about not having children, you will still have this uncertainty, because you know you can change your mind, and your girlfriend or can change her mind, or your boyfriend can change his mind. You know, nothing is certain in this world.
That's right.
And that's just what, because my husband, he has 2 children. All this uncertainty, it kind of shifts towards my side of the court, if I can say so, because you know, he had no doubts, he had no risk of regretting, because you know he was a father.
Yes.
By the time I met him. So, you know, it all depends. And, you know, there are different certain, or that there are different levels of being, you know, having this feeling, I don't want kids, because some people are kind of indifferent, you know. They just, if they meet a woman or a man who doesn't want to have kids, they say, okay, I'll just go along with it. It's not that important for me to have children. But, you know, it can change.
Yeah.
So it's like children are a dilemma, and it is even for parents, because you know, are you going to have 1 child, or are you going to have 2,
That's
or are you
right.
going to have a third? You have to agree on that.
Absolutely, and the expectations never stop, it seems. You know, so when you were, you know, witnessing this happening with your family members and them changing their mind, what were some of the beliefs and questions that arose in you to explore during this time? Did it make you really question everything?
It made me kind of question why why I didn't want to have a kid when everybody else obviously got the desire. And you know, I knew that it wasn't completely true, because I knew that these 2 women in my family, they didn't have the desire. They just went along with it. And they just kind of, you know, I'll just have to manage. And they do, you know, because when you take a choice like that, when you actually wanted the opposite, then you have made so many thoughts, and you are so aware of what you are going into, that you usually, you know, you manage to be a mom, because very well, actually, because you have given it so much thought before you actually got pregnant. But you know, I kind of began to wonder about this kind of expectations, you know, and prejudices for women, because, you know, motherhood, it makes mothers and women without children focusing on their differences.
Yes.
And you know, when a woman gets pregnant, it's like a prejudice rears its ugly head in this friendship between 2 women, along with these normative expectations, because, you know, the mother kind of, there's so many expectations of how to be a mother.
Yes.
But since you don't have any expectations for being a woman without children, we kind of ending up with these prejudices and myths, and because the mother has to deal with the expectations, and we have to deal with the prejudice, and we have to deal with the myths, then we just kind of end up competing with and judging each other in this context war over which lifestyle leads to the greatest happiness. And so we end up like girlfriends who previously share their innermost thoughts and feelings about anything and everything, and have shown this, you know, this female understanding to one another, they just end up drifting apart when motherhood comes into the picture.
I mean, that can certainly happen, can't it? Especially when the children are very young, and just on a practical level, because they're so, obviously absorbed in the responsibilities and the sleep deprivation and all of that. So you can certainly see how that can happen easily when the children are little, especially. And so what do you think then, what is the norm? Because obviously you're in Denmark and we have these different variances from country to country. Do you see that the statistics are growing quite quickly of women who are not having children?
I think that not only Denmark, but the Scandinavian countries, we are quite, we are different because we have, compared to other countries, we have pretty good maternity leave laws. They secure the pregnant woman very, very to a great extent.
Which is great.
They can be sure to have their job back, and they are secured like almost a half a year of full payment on their maternity leave, and then they have option, and it's their choice to take another half year with a lower income paid by the government. So it's not because of the economics or the risk of losing your job that women choose not to have children here. It is either because they, like me, they just feel they don't like to do it. They won't do it, or because they get childless by circumstance. And that's actually the biggest problem, because we have like 13% of the women in Denmark who ends up being without children for one or the other reasons. And actually there are more men. It's 20% of the men.
Wow.
And we have a fertility rate that is slightly increasing, or it has been slightly increasing the past 2 years. It's still low. And we have 8% of all children. They are born after doing the woman doing IVF.
Right.
So the growing trend here is that women choose to become what we call solo moms to avoid the risk of becoming childless by circumstance. Because every 10th of these children born after IVF, they get born by a solo mom. And they are really, the media, they call them so selfish, actually. And that's at the same time, there are a lot of media campaigns, to have people consider having children at an earlier stage in life. And I think it was like last year, maybe, I actually had a visit from BBC. They came from Scotland visiting me in my house because of my book. And they were in Denmark and doing an interview with me because they were making a program about the paradox that the Danish population is in decline, whilst the demand for Danish sperm donation is booming.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It kind of fit really great with the reactions that I had on my book, because I had more angry men. There were men saying that I shouldn't have been born and stuff like that. And when you have, because when you have more men than women that end up not having children, I think there, the 7% of difference between men and women, I think it's the men ending up childless by circumstance, because they can't find a woman who would want them as a father. So men actually have to compete to prove that they are good as fathers. But anyway, men are still, they decide that they want to have kids very late. And the woman, she has a biological clock, and the men doesn't really realize that they have to want children at an earlier stage.
Yeah, because obviously we've only got that limited window of fertility. So even if we want it, you can't always have that just purely, for biological reasons. And also, one of the things that I'm hearing more about as well is how many women are meeting their partners later in life. And so they might meet somebody who is open to having a family, but it's at that point where they're in their early 40s and it just doesn't happen naturally.
No.
So, there's just so many different circumstances these days.
Yeah, there sure is.
And so what have you had to deal with in terms of like pressure from, family and friends, like you were saying with the women in your family? Did they then voice any pressure or try to persuade you to change your mind at all, or not really?
I most of all, I think I felt the pressure within myself. Because of this, why don't I have the urge to have children when every other women give into it? And the only social pressure I really had, or the difficult one, was telling my mother that I didn't want to have kids, because she obviously wanted grandchildren.
Yeah.
And she got really disappointed. And that's the fact that I don't want to have kids is not the same thing as that she doesn't deserve to become a grandmother.
Exactly.
But it's a big compromise if you have children just to make your parents grandparents. It wouldn't work out.
No.
And then and the other pressure was kind of my husband. And that was why my mother, she had a really hard time understanding why I didn't want to have kids with him, because he's a really good father and he likes children and they like him. And, it's not just the playing thing, it's also the upbringing. His children are very well raised. But I just came to that kind of conclusion that when he didn't really want any more kids, then it was not really fair asking him for one when I wasn't, I really want this kid. It was just, if I had a kid, it would have been just to go along with the others, because I kind of had like, if I'm going to have kids, I have to have them now when my family starts breathing, because then the kids would be the same age, and they could play together.
Yeah.
But he completely changed my view on kids, because in the book I just kind of explains how I never felt of having a kid. Like, hey, hell no, it's not for me. Kids, they're pretty nice. They are easy to be with if you just look at it the right way, because I've never been really into babies. But he kind of just, my husband kind of just showed me the good sides and showed me he made it seem so easy with children. But I still have this. It's not that bad anymore. But I normally, usually I say what I think. But when I'm with mothers, I kind of think a lot about what I say and what I do. Because of these social expectations,
Yeah.
The classic one is, do you want to hold my baby? and you kind of answer yes, because you are supposed to say yes.
And you're trying to be polite.
Yes, exactly. But parents are not always polite the other way.
No.
In terms of accepting your point of view on life.
Yeah.
As a general thing of pressuring, I can live with people asking me if I'm going to have kids. The worst thing is this, that my explanation, it's not really going to be accepted. And I had this. They made a TV program in Denmark. They called it "Screw for Denmark" because they wanted people to have more kids. And there was, I was in it, like a kind of example that people had gotten more selfish, that they were thinking of themselves instead of having kids. And I was standing beside a mom of 7, but she had, the other kind. She had, why did you get so many kids? She was just, she also got questioned because she had so many kids.
But surely people only have children for selfish personal reasons.
Yeah. But, the funny thing was there was a gynecologist on the show. She was helping determining the fertility of a young couple. And I think they were around 30, the common age for starting having kids.
Yeah.
When the show was over, she said, well, I think you will regret. And when you do, I will help you become a mother, even though you have reached the age of 60. And I was just like, you haven't, it's what I have experienced from most of the journalists I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot. They don't really understand the term child-free because, they expect you to change your mind, and they think you're a problem that can be solved by convincing you to become a mother.
But I mean, you'd never say to a pregnant woman, would you? Well, you might change your mind later. But I'm sure lots of people do, because we know that many people with children, they're not natural parents, and a lot of people do regret it. Actually, if you go into Google and look up, I wish I'd never have children, there are lots of forums.
Yeah.
And also you only have to look at the number of children who are in care or who need fostering or adopting to know that it wasn't necessarily the right decision for that person, just because it's a biological ability.
Yes, when I wrote on Facebook about my book in Denmark, there was a woman telling me that she thought she's a mother, and she said that it was a really important book because she actually had a kid, and she sometimes she missed her life before she had her daughter, but she didn't dare saying it loud because she would get comments like, what kind of mother are you? It's not, you're not allowed, there's this kind of attitude in society that you are supposed to be happy every day.
We all have different nurturing and mothering and loving skills that we bring, different abilities that we bring to different areas in our life. And so obviously having a child as well is, on a physical level, it's one form of expression. It's not the only way to express ourselves. So how else would you say that you use that energy and that part of you to express yourself or create in other ways?
I think that that's kind of my conclusion to this, because motherhood and womanhood, they are so tight connected. And I just realized that femininity and motherhood, they are two different concepts in my world. They do not necessarily go together. So for me, I had to figure out what makes me feel female, and I found out that it's more associated with kind of sensuality and a spirit of adventure and creative urges. And the basic thing for me is that it's very important for me to help others. When I was young, I went to live for a couple of months in Brazil. And for the first time in my life, I saw street children. And, they got right in the heart of me. And I kind of had this urge to take them home to Denmark with me, not because I wanted to be a mother, but, just to give them a better life.
Only each woman can decide what femininity and womanhood means for her, and that's going to be different for every single woman. And often we have this very blurry line between womanhood and motherhood, and they're not the same thing. Motherhood is only one aspect of that, but often there is this confusion that it's one and the same thing, and it's not, and only you can know, what it is for you. That's every woman's right, I feel, to define that for herself. And so What do you feel are the major benefits that you experience of not having children?
Oh, Michelle, that's the most difficult question, because you are actually asking me what is different in your life now than and what wouldn't have been there if you had kids. And I think that if you really want to, you can manage to have the life you want, even though you have kids.
Yeah.
I think that this process of accepting my lack of desire to have kids, it has been a learning process where I learned to accept myself as the woman I am, and not the mother I could be. Yeah. And that has helped me to make better choices in other aspects of my life too. Because, basically it's about being true to your own feelings. Yes. And learn to say the word, no, thank you. But it's difficult. I know several women, they have really, they said, oh, I don't really want to do this. But, especially in the terms of family, I feel it very strongly when, I have to say no to my mother when she wants me to do something, because you're brought up to, kind of
be accommodating.
To your to other people's expectations. And if I had to point out something that haven't been there, I started out thinking that I should be an accountant. So I changed at the point where everybody else started a family. I started a completely new education, and I could have done that otherwise, with a family, but it's more difficult to do that if you have to think about that you have a family to support.
Yeah.
And there's another thing, because we live in this kind of really material world. I often think that I'm really lucky that I don't have to have all these material things like toys and gadgets, and I can live quite a life with less material things, because they don't really mean that much to me. So that's kind of
a huge benefit.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Well, that's great. Thank you, Karin. So interesting to hear your perspective. And can you share the best place for people to find you online and get a copy of your book?
Right now it's on Amazon, both in a paperback and as a Kindle. And the best place to find me is childfreewoman.com. And I also have some final words, I think, which is that I think you should define your own femininity and feel beautiful and valuable and loved as the woman you are, not the mother you could be.
Yes.
And remember that your life is not about what you are, but who you are.
Exactly.
And that it's okay to let yourself be inspired by others, but please avoid to compare yourself to them.
So true. Yeah, that's very dangerous trap to fall into, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you. That's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you too. I feel very lucky to be a part of your unique collection of fabulous women without children.
Thank you for listening to Unclassified Woman. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. For information on events and services, connect with Michelle at michellemariemcgrath.com.